Hello, everyone. My name is Alexander Horat, and I'm running for TUD District 4. And the reason why I've chosen to run is because I want to lower water rates and cut wasteful spending and also protect our water rights. And, these are some really important things that I want to do because a lot of people I've been talking to have been talking about, how high the water rates are for people to have water from TUD. And that's really bad because that makes it harder for those people to live off the money they have, especially for people who have fixed income. And the way I can lower water rates, I believe, is by cutting wasteful spending. So if I can cut wasteful spending, then we can lower the water rates so people can have their water for cheaper and that so they can have more money in their pocket to do things. And that's really the main reason why I want to get on this TUD board is for those two things. But also, even probably more important is to protect our water rights, protect the rights of the people in Tuolumne County is a very important factor as well. And one thing that I really want to say is people say, oh, what wasteful spending is there? Does TUD have any wasteful spending? So I'm just going to be sharing on my screen to show you an example of wasteful spending with TUD. So here's an old meeting agenda on December 14th, 2021. And what happened in that meeting is that all the members of the board of TUD voted in favor of authorizing the general manager to execute an agreement for communication slash public relations and community outreach for a total of almost $120,000 for basically outreach activities to assist with community forums and provide other related services. And this was for TUD buying the water rights from PG&E, including the Pinecrest Reservoir. So basically, they're going to give $120,000 to these people to help, with public outreach and things of that nature. But one thing that I found very odd in this grand jury report, this is about TUD, and it says right here in December 2021, TUD retained the firm Financial Consultants Inc. for public relations services to assist in a public outreach campaign related to the proposed acquisition. The contract was for an amount not to exceed almost $120,000 in connection with the decision to hire the consultant. So it's a consultant firm, pretty much. One of the members of the TUD board of directors was quoted saying, "You know how sensitive I am when it comes to spending ratepayer money, but to me, this is the one time I don't care what the budget is." But then it goes on to say in this grand jury report, except for these efforts, however, there's been little or no information of any substance until the general manager and a board member gave a January 29th, 2022 radio interview concerning the proposed acquisition. So basically what they're saying, they paid, $120,000 for this firm, this consultant firm to talk about TUD buying the water rights, but there was really no information of substance given for a long time until 2022, which was a pretty big deal in my opinion. And also another thing, a part of this grand jury report findings, there's been a lack of transparency about the status, progress, potential conclusion, and possible effects of the proposed acquisition of PG&E property and water rights on TUD and ratepayers. Potential effects of this lack of transparency include public confusion and ultimately a risk to public support for the proposal. And this grand jury report right here was May 12th, 2022, Water's Life. And as we all know, unfortunately, PG&E suspended negotiations with TUD. And so the reason why I'm saying this is a wasteful expenditure for the TUD board to do is ultimately it was up to TUD and PG&E to reach a deal. So why was there a need to hire an outside consulting firm in the amount of almost $120,000 just for public outreach? And also when they didn't really do that much public outreach, or TUD as a body, at least according to this grand jury report, didn't do very much public outreach. So that seems like a wasteful expenditure, and that seemed like something that did not need to be spent on. So that's just one example of wasteful spending. And another thing I'd like to talk about is that TUD actually has over $21 million in the stock market and other securities and things like that, which I find a little odd because you would think they'd have a little bit more cash on hand. And one thing that's always kind of worried me is, government investing the people's money. Basically, the benefit for a few at the expense of the many. It just doesn't really seem wise to be investing public funds, especially when those funds could go down in the stock market if there's a war, like the war in Ukraine, or just a stock panic or a Great Depression. What would happen to all the TUD funds? Would they be able to sell them quickly enough to get their money if they saw it drop like a rock, or would it drop like the rock one night and then TUD would be left without almost any money, or a big portion of their money being lost? So I'm going to share the screen to show you a little bit about this. TUD consolidated. So total market value of their stocks and everything like that. So here's 2022. I believe this is their last report on March 31, 2022. There may be a newer report, but I'll have to look for that. It may have not came out yet, but it says right here, total market value of the stocks is 21,587,744. But in 2021, the value was a little more than $23 million. So we see the value has been going down to some extent. And basically, they have money in U.S. Treasuries and stuff like that, but they also have quite a bit of money in big companies like Amazon, Walmart, and a lot of really big multinational corporate companies. But it seems like a lot of the money is going into, especially the government. That's 20%. A lot of banks, Bank Corp, Berkshire Hathaway, big percentage of that, Charles Schwab Corporation, Procter and Gamble and Company. So a lot of money has been going into that. And this just shows the money where they have all this money in. So GM Financial Auto Lease Trust, 70,000, Mercedes Benz Auto Lease Trust, 25,000. So they have quite a bit of money in this. And so they actually have been losing some money, at least according to this last report. So cost value, book value, market value, percent of gain/loss. So they've actually been losing some money in some of these, it appears. Let's scroll down so I think I can find it. Berkshire Hathaway. So see, they lost a little bit of money here. Looks like about $3,000 cost value, book value, because they were saying basically that the war in Ukraine has caused the stocks to go down a little bit, which is definitely understandable, because whenever there's a war, stocks can definitely go down, and even more secure things as well. So there was a Great Depression. What would happen to TUD stocks? And one thing that I was trying to also find out is that I know a lot of companies, including public companies, put a lot of the employees, retirement benefits into the stock market. So it says they spend $2,800,000 for total retirement and health contribution. So definitely could be a portion of that $21 million, but it's definitely not a big part of it. And I just wanted to show that a little bit. And here's also another important thing to note is I was talking about cash on hand, because TUD has $21 million in reserves in the stock market, or just for general things. But it says right here, TUD's general manager estimated in an interview with mymotherlode.com that the cost of cleanup and restoration of the damage from the 2021 December storm might reach $100,000. In contrast, TUD's fiscal year 22 budget set aside only $19,000 in reserves for the water contingency fund. TUD's fiscal year 2021 budget allocated for just $13,000 in reserves for water contingency fund. The estimated cost of the damage from the storm event therefore significantly exceeds the funding set aside in the water contingency fund for the same year. While financial recovery might be available from the state or federal government after an emergency event, sufficient in-hand funding is necessary to allow for an immediate response to emergencies. So that's another important thing. They should have, although those stocks can be very liquid and they could sell them maybe fairly quickly, they should have a certain amount of money, cash on hand, to meet disasters or some things like that can happen. And that's from that same grand jury report. And here's another thing to note, how Orange County went broke 25 years ago. How could a rich place like us go bankrupt? And apparently they lost quite a bit of money from the stock market. The scene 25 years ago this month could have been lifted from a mob movie. 10 top power brokers in Orange County government headed to an exclusive Italian restaurant for a secret Saturday dinner. Strung out from a string of all-nighters, they had been working to keep the county's $20 billion investment pool from imploding. The meal was to be a pressure reliever, a breather, a reward. Despite the headlines just 2 days earlier, OC fund down by 1.5 billion. It seemed on December 3rd, 1994, that things might work out. During marathon calls with the Wall Street brokers and local city bureaucrats, they delivered a smooth new mantra. It's just a paper loss. Everything's under control. Don't panic. And the message they thought was landing. So that's just kind of an example of what could happen if the stock market crashed, kind of like during the Great Depression. It's just gambling the taxpayers' money, I think, in a large extent. And it has been going down a little bit since the whole thing with war in Ukraine and stuff with that as well. Not to say it could go up. TUD could make an enormous amount of money with taxpayer funds, but there's a big possibility they could lose it. And I don't think TUD should be forced to face with those options. I think they should at least have more money cash on hand. So that's one thing that would probably need to be changed as I look closer into it once I get into office. And yeah, and also lower the wasteful spending and just, preserve our water rights and everything in that nature. So I ask you, if you can, if you like what I stand for, if you could please vote for me in November for TUD Board District 4. I would really appreciate that. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me at californiafreedomalliance@gmail.com. And I also have an alliance called the California Freedom Alliance, which goal is to cut wasteful spending, lower taxes here in Tuolumne County. So basically the things that I stand for in this TUD election as well. So I just like to thank you all for watching. Please share this with your friends and family if you can. Hope you all have a good day. God bless.